It's Sunday, and I wanted to do a video about returning to work on Monday mornings because so many people I know love their job, but, and then they'll go on to say something like, there's just one person or some type of toxic person or toxic environment that ruins everything for them. And so Monday mornings become dreadful. So, what does the whole NeuroZen thing say that might help Mondays be a little bit more tolerable? Well, I'm going to start off with an old Zen story. Then I'll talk about neuroscience and I'll go back to Zen. But it's an old Zen story about two monks, and they're walking along, and they had very strict order. They were not allowed to interact with women, but they happened to find a woman who was trying to cross a river. And one of the monks carried her across the river, and then he put her down. Then the two monks continued walking. And finally, the one monk couldn't take it any longer, and he just started shouting, "How could you do this? And we're not allowed to interact with women. How could you? You broke all the rules." And the other monk very calmly replied, "Well, I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" But I think that's really important because that's the thing. Maybe you go to work and you interact with Toxic Bill for a few minutes, but if you could just put him down and leave on Friday, it wouldn't be so bad. But you don't. You don't put him down. You ruminate about the whole scenario over the weekend, and then you really start to ruminate on Sundays about going back to what you think might happen on Monday. And so, why can't we put it down? Well, let's jump into the neuroscience. Most neuroscience, although they won't come out and say it, I would guess practically every neuroscientist would agree that we live in a neuropsychological simulation. What I mean by that is everything your brain knows is through the nervous system. Think about something like just listening to my voice right now. What's happening is there's vibrations in the air. Your ears are translating those vibrations into neural coding that the brain can understand. So all your brain really knows about reality is this neural coding. Here's the problem. Your brain can't tell reality from a thought about reality because it's all neural coding. So when you think about Toxic Bill, that's just the same as actually interacting with Toxic Bill. Your brain doesn't know the difference. So the thoughts are just as powerful as the real thing. And so if you bring Toxic Bill home, that's just like bringing home the real Toxic Bill and having a weekend with them. And that makes it really even more problematic on Monday morning. So let's take a little time with the Buddhist take on this now. Because when we talk about the mind, we're talking about a very primitive program, almost like a virus that helped our ancestors survive. And so the mind is just about survival. So it thinks very simplistic, black and white, friend or foe. And so when it interacts with people, it very quickly just tries to categorize them. And the mind can't put anything down. It never does. In fact, if you were the mind, you would be able to put this down and not think about it anymore. The very fact that you can't proves that you are not the mind. So think about the mess that this kind of sets things up to be. So the mind can't tell symbol from a real thing. You bring home the symbols and you ruminate about them all weekend, and you can't put it down because the mind doesn't have the capacity to put things down. Now that sounds really like a Monday morning mess. But the good news is just to go back to one simple idea. You are not the mind. If you were, you could put this down. In fact, not only are you not the mind, but the toxic Bill that upsets you so much, he's not his mind either. And one thing to consider, it's very possible that in Bill's mind, you, or what you should say, your mind, might be just as toxic to Bill as you perceive Bill's mind to be to you. And so that's the thing about minds. They're like, mind recognizes mind, just like dogs recognize dogs and kids will recognize kids. And the more you identify with mind, the more this environment is going to appear toxic. But that's the trick of it all, to remember that you are not mind. And when you can remember that and hold on to it for a little bit, you'll be surprised to see how different Mondays can be.